welcome into the Double Doinkers Fantasy Football Podcast with Nick Meyer and Willie J. This episode, we're not even going to talk about fantasy football. We're going to talk about the movie Him from 2025. I am going to reintroduce that in a second, so get prepared for that. You know that saying, God, family, football? For me, it's football, family, pod. Welcome into Additional Crew and Double Doinkers, the spoiler-heavy movie review where we kind of just choose whatever random film we want to talk about. This episode, we bring you a young athlete descends into a world of terror when he's invited to train with a legendary champion whose charisma curdles into something darker. I am, of course, talking about Jordan Tipping's new film, Him, in theaters at the time of this recording from 2025. Before we jump into that, and we will momentarily, let me introduce your co-hosts. I'm Nick, and with me is Willie, as you just heard a moment ago.
What's up, Nick?
What's going on, man? You know, it's been a week. Got a lot of stuff to talk about tomorrow. Because like if you've watched from Double Doinkers, this is the Double Doinkers crew. You're hearing it on the YouTube if you join in there. But this is a sweet little crossover episode because if you're listening to Additional Crew. Willie's my co-host on our weekly fantasy football podcast, and he's been a co-host with me on Additional Crew before, so he's not a new face. However, we're very happy to have him here. Yeah, how's your week been, Willie? What's going on?
You know, it's been pretty good. No complaints. I saw a much better movie this weekend. Well, it's called One Battle After Another. That says less about this movie and just more about how great that movie was. New Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Go check it out. I also wanted to share when I was seeing this in the theaters. I saw it last night, which would be Monday night. And while I was seeing it in the theaters, Tyreek Hill got injured. Pretty brutal leg injury. If you haven't seen the replays of it, I wouldn't recommend going to watch it. And I got out of the theater after having seen him, and I saw the notification about the leg injury. And there's some pretty gruesome injuries in this movie, so all that felt pretty ironic that was happening while I was watching this.
And yeah. I mean, really though, that Tyreek Hill injury. I mean, I think that guy might be done. But we'll talk about that more tomorrow. This is a film. Of course, everyone thought it was Jordan Peele, but he's just producing it because it's through Monkey Paw Productions. This is a film by Jordan Tippings, and it is. I think the reason why we chose this film is because it is this crossover movie, right? It's a football psychological horror movie. And those are rare. I mean, I think you can name on like off the top of my head, I can only think of like The Fan, and I think it's Black Sunday. Not a lot of football horror movies exist, so this is like a real weird niche that they put together here.
Is that the one with Patton Oswalt, where he's like a super obsessed Giants fan? Or that might be a different movie.
No, yeah, The Fan I'm thinking of is the one with Wesley Snipes. Oh. And he's got like a stalker, or he is the stalker. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I watched that movie.
There's like it's more of a comedy, but it's like a psychological. It's kind of it's called Big Fan. It's from 2009 with Patton Oswalt, and he plays this guy who's completely obsessed with the New York Giants. And it's been a while since I've seen it, but it was marketed as a comedy, but it's pretty weird.
Yeah, not quite a comedy, really. I here's what I'll start off with saying is that this genre decision, I think it's a pretty good genre decision if you can actually write something that's competent. And before we get like super deep into the movie, that seems to be a bit of a challenge for people. This movie was, however, like considered one of the best scripts out there when it was purchased. So we'll talk about that. It's very interesting. But so this movie has Marlon Wayans, Tyreek Withers, Julia Fox, Tim Heidecker, Jim Jeffries. Am I missing anyone? I'm sure I am. Someone probably really important to this plot. Maurice Green. Yeah. And then a lot of the musicians that also made music are also in this movie. I of course, like seeing Marlon Wayans in a horror film, that feels like a really good combo too. So there was like a lot of good things going for this movie. Before we to dive into the good things, let's first talk about the story of this film. So the story of this film, and I'm not going to go plot by plot point, because I assume at this point, if you're listening, you've watched it, and if you haven't watched it, these are spoiler heavy reviews. This is going to be your warning to turn back, go and watch the film, and then listen. If you want to just get our score, you could jump to the end if that's what you're into. But otherwise, like, be careful. We're gonna say things, and they're gonna tell you all the things in the movie. So just know that. But okay, so you got this guy who's been a fan of a football team forever.
San
He,
Antonio Saviors. Is that right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
great name.
Um, like they look like the Bucks. You got this like Tom Brady like character. He's won
Mhm.
eight championships, and he is the hero of this kid who is now gone through college. He is supposed to be the best prospect in the league. He gets hurt through just a brutal attack, and then this is one of the okay. This story doesn't make any sense, especially like I kind of feel like one of these guys who wrote this story or the director just doesn't really know anything about how to get into the pros of football, because what would take so much more than just missing a combine to take the number one overall prospect of the nation and just completely remove him from the draft,
Yeah.
unless he goes and trains in a weird bunker with another dude.
Well, even in that case, it doesn't make any sense because yeah, his agent's talking about completely like taking him out of a draft because he's not going to be at the combine. But this, legendary football player also is inviting him to be at his like train with him at his place. So like that doesn't. There's a complete disconnect there. Like a guy who might not even get drafted is going to train with this guy. That's
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
totally
It,
lost me.
and this is the issue, is like it loses you pretty right away. It's just like almost immediately, because I don't. Okay, one thing about the story, and this, I'm jumping guns here for sure, is that I can never really tell what actually happened and what actually didn't happen. There are
Yes.
moments where I'm like, okay, this happened, but there are other moments where it's like, well, is this reality? Are we operating in the real world? Is this connected in any way to the actual football that we would assume it would be?
Hmm.
And I have to answer no to most of the times, because like the starting scene is a football that's spinning on its axis forever, and then all of a sudden he picks it up and that causes some dude with a giant hammer to hit him in the head.
Come out of nowhere. Yeah, that's the thing. It's not even a football injury. It's an attack that's not explained in any more elaborate detail. He's like at his high school or something. He's like training before the combine, and then this Viking figure comes out of nowhere, hits him on the head, and then that's there's no other explanation until later. But like, there's no media explanation for what happened at all.
And it's an injury that's like serious enough to derail his whole entire career, but not serious enough to stop him from high intensity training, what I assume is 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
And that might be like nice. It might be like a week or two later. I don't really know. The timing didn't make any sense. Not a lick of sense.
No.
So you've got the story that's written out, and there's a potential that this is like a pacing issue, but I don't think so. They just didn't connect anything to the real world. So the whole entire time you're watching this, you just have to make an assumption that you're either seeing this crazy spaghetti mascot in real life or not. Like spooky rolling footballs going by, and you don't know if they're real or if they're not. And spooky rolling footballs is probably my favorite term that I got from this, because I've never seen a movie try to make a football rolling on the ground look spooky. It doesn't look spooky.
The SRX, the spooky rolling footballs.
It's SRFs. Uh, so the plot of this film essentially just is this guy, he gets the offer to go to this camp, and then he can be the next Saviors quarterback, theoretically, without joining the draft, which isn't how things work. This just isn't how any of this works. But okay, we suspend disbelief. We say, okay, let's go. He shows up at this place, and it's Marlon Wayans, and it's just a high intensity training that has him getting injected with all sorts of stuff. And eventually he finds out that there's like this super nefarious reasoning behind all of it, and then everyone dies. So that's like in a nutshell. The plot doesn't make any sense. The story of this movie makes pretty much no sense.
I think you really hit it right on the head. No pun intended. When you said that, like, there's parts of this movie because in the beginning it's kind of interesting where you don't know if it's reality or it's in his imagination, and it starts progressing that way.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a scene early on that has that. It's kind of cool because it's during one of the high intensity trainings, and it's like, well, is he actually seeing this or is it real? And there's some parts in like the first 20-30 minutes, but then that's the rest of the movie. And this the entire movie is like, well, is this real or is this like in his head? And then there's no elaboration on that at all. And then it's just after a while, it's like, I don't care. I can't follow the plot. I can't. None of this makes sense. I can't. I don't know. It made me feel like I had CTE.
Which, I mean, if that's the purpose, if they're going for a whole David Lynch experience where they're like, okay, now you are the character, maybe like they got us on a meta level that I just don't understand. But I don't feel like that's it. And Marlon, like, so every part of this movie just seems to have this connected, like, this is the normal process that we're doing something normal, and yet now here it is showing something really dark underneath it. But so like for me, I think about this and I'm like, the original script was probably trying to make a lot of really like poignant points about football, the dangers and violence in football, the dangers and violence in being obsessed as a fan of football, like just the dangers and violence of society being wrapped up in a violent sport like this.
Mhm.
But it just casually crossed over all those things without actually making its point.
Mhm.
It was like, here's a thought that you could have at some point. I don't have that thought, but there's one that you could have. Then it just moves on.
Moves on, and then at the very end, it kind of explains its purpose and serves its purpose, or kind of explains its purpose, and gives it to you on a silver platter. But then it just is over, which is I still don't get if there's a message being conveyed. It was just like communicating like what the secret nefarious thing is about, and then okay, that's it.
It's like, okay, well, here you go. Here's the mystery. We solved it.
Yeah,
All those subtext plots, don't worry about them. They don't matter. The mystery is solved.
no,
This is what we were doing. Like, so you have so Marlon Wayans clearly seems to be the villain of this film. He's written as the villain. His character is just to challenge Tyreek's character. And I am Camcade, right? I think that's his name. And Isaiah White. So Isaiah White is Marlon Wayans and Camcade is Tyreek. And the whole way throughout, Marlon Wayans is just this character who doesn't really want to give it up. He is pushing Cam as hard as he can, and it seems like to purposefully break him. And so I want to talk about the scene where they're using the jugs machine.
uh-huh.
And why that guy would get hit in the face over and over again just to help Cameron learn how to release the ball faster or something of that sort.
It's like a psychological punishment. Like, hey, this guy's getting injured because you're not releasing the ball fast enough. You got to try harder.
Mm-hmm. And I get it. It's like the team is your responsibility. If they're getting hurt, that's on you, right? Like this could be like, okay, we talk about fantasy football. Let's talk about Derek Carr for a second. Derek Carr threw hospital balls over and over again to his receivers and got Chris Olave a bunch of concussions, right? I almost want to say that it could be based on that, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense here because instead it's just like Isaiah White is just asked this guy to get hit in the face with increasingly faster thrown balls every time there's an incompletion.
Yeah, there's not like it's not hospital balls because the receiver's not even getting the opportunity to like go for it. He just is getting hit in the face of a ball because the guy's like throwing passes not fast enough. It's not that he's throwing bad passes; he's just not doing it fast enough. So there's a weird disconnect. Also, the guy kind of looked like Cam Scatabo to me, so I did enjoy that. Not because I hate Cam Scatabo, but just because I thought it was funny.
Cam's cat will be like, "Yeah, hit me in the face. Let's go." I kept thinking about that. They actually chose a pretty good group of people to kind of look like they could have been defenders in the NFL. Like they're all ripped and they're pretty beefy and big looking dudes, you know. Um, I think
who
some
are
of them
who are they?
there's a lot of questions of the who are they because again, I think this like it just keeps touching these ideas and like introducing them through like all this subtext and never once actually managing to explain or like relate them to you because
Mhm.
like the idea that like okay, here's what I was sitting there and thinking. I'm like everyone involved in football, including like the free agents and the people who aren't the stars. they're all obsessed with football. They'll do anything to get closer to the stars and get closer to the pro level. So maybe these are dudes who are like trying to prove that they'll do anything to get on the team to hopefully get on a team. But you see, I'm doing so much reaching, it could be the Olympics.
Well, that's actually funny. You say that. That's what when I was watching this with my girlfriend, their theory was that these were like practice squad members that were like desperate to
Mm-hmm.
make, and this is like their one attempt, and that like that does kind of make sense. But again, they don't elaborate on that at all, and also they're
Mm-mm.
not with the team; they're just at Isaiah White's mansion. So,
Yeah,
what?
getting hit in the face with footballs.
Yeah,
Like it's just like I said, I think you could make that argument, but if that's the argument and that's the deeper message they're trying to get across, they did it so incredibly poorly
hmm
that it's hard to give them credit for that. So it, it's just kind of like one battle after. Okay, I just said one battle after another. I think that got supplanted in my head and subconsciously. I'm not getting paid by them,
all after another.
but it's like that. It's like one scene after another where it's like trying to convey something, but it does it so like without purpose that it just completely misses the point.
That's I think that's like one of my biggest gripes is that if I'm open to movies that are just weird. You don't know exactly what's going on. I like David Lynch kind of style. Like it's unreliable, not narrator, but unreliable narrative. Like
Mm-hmm.
it just goes from scene to scene. Things are weird. Things are mysterious. Not everything is neatly tied together with a bow at the end. But what requires that to work is at least some contrast between this weird imaginal world and reality, at least something. And also, you have to care about the characters. And I did not care at all about this character because he's given no depth at all whatsoever. And most of the narrative, like 95% of the film, he's like suffering from brain damage. So he doesn't even react emotionally. There's nothing there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I I one thing that they did at one point that okay, there's a lot of things I wish that they could have just elaborated more on, but when he called his family on the phone and he had to talk to his family, like the family was the anchor point,
hmm
guys. Like bring the family into this more. If he cares so much about his family, make me care about his family a little bit. Make this about his family a little bit.
He didn't care about his family. He also didn't really seem to care much about his dad either. That was the even bigger anchor point. Is his dad, who's dead now, was the guy that got him into football. They touched on that very briefly, and it just doesn't seem like he has any emotional connection to his dad. Like I
Uh,
don't know.
the story and the plot in this is just pretty. It's pretty awful. I will say just because like even when you get so there's a flip that happens right and it's probably around the time where he shoots the mascot where now Cam is kind of like going okay I can get into this I'll be the dude I'll go ahead I'll do this
Mhm.
and then also Marlon Isaiah White's character is on the ropes a little bit and that's when you see the sauna character where he's like getting actually like vulnerable sounding with him and tells him about how he should care more about certain things and he should make his own path and that's kind of disrupted by the fan lady who comes in and like I can say this Justin Tipping is a person who has talent and I can tell that because there's snippets of it they pop in like the lady getting out underneath the sauna wonderfully creepy looking.
It exactly. It doesn't make any sense, but like the way that it's shot, him in the sauna, and there's a tension building because there's shots to like you see the temperature of the sauna like raising higher and higher and higher. That's also not really explained. Um, he builds some tension. You see the sweat on Cam Ward, not Cam Ward, Cam Cade's forehead, and then there's that shot that's like a little zoomed out, and it like is just of the sauna, and then you see her like coming out from underneath the like bench area where he's laying.
Hmm.
That's a well shot scene. That's well
Hmm.
directed. It builds
Hmm.
tension. It builds it to really nothing. That's still one of my favorite scenes in the movie, but it's well directed. I can see that.
But I mean, my favorite part in this is just like what encapsulates this whole entire scene is that they have these two incredibly creepy looking dudes who are out in the I don't know what to call it the foyer. I don't know what do you call compounds connecting room. You know,
It's
uh,
like a specific type of hallway. I don't know.
yeah, they look like incredibly creepy. They move incredibly creepy, but the issue is they have those really stupid football masks on, which I can understand. Like again, they're touching on a point about football fanaticism and like how you can become obsessed. but just with such haphazard care for the message underneath it that it doesn't make any point. You know what I mean? I'm like, you almost had it creepy and you almost had it interesting, and instead you just hit the wall with both of them and said, "Never mind, let's just move off of it."
They reminded me, especially with the kind of haunted mansion vibe of it. It reminded me of Scooby Doo characters, like Scooby Doo villains, like the ghosts that just pop up.
I do like that. I do like that. Uh, like and uh this is also when the comedy started coming through a little bit more, and I think for me it felt like this scene when Marlon Wayans kissed the fan
Hmm.
before he like just Superman tossed her into the wall. I think that was the point when they knew they were making a bad movie, because like that part, I didn't mind the kiss. I thought that was funny, like in a good way. I was like, okay, that's off putting, great, wonderful.
Makes them
And then
creepier.
yeah, exactly. Then he throws her in the wall, and like, okay, that's fine. But then after that, it feels like they started inserting bad kind of comic jokes in there. They're
Hmm.
like, okay, we got Marlon Wayans, we got to be a little bit funny, and it just kept falling flat because you're like, well, this is a very serious movie about concussions and about all this going on, and you're just like, what's the joke a little bit?
There's almost something that was being said there when she came out from underneath the sauna bench and started attacking him, and he started choking her. And for a second there, you think that he killed her because he. It seems brief, but like he has so much strength and power that he like has his hand around her throat for like 5 seconds, and then it looks like she's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of see a switch where he's like, "Oh my god, what did I just kill her?" Like, and it's kind of like a point in the movie where it turns to him really going off a deep end. I mean, we really don't know his head state at all because there's no emotion conveyed by the character, but like it seems like there's a turning point. But then she wakes up again, and then she kisses Isaiah White, and then he just like throws her against a wall and kills her. So any of that like build up where like maybe he did kill her, I feel like it was just lost because then it turned to the comedic relief, and then he didn't kill her. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It's like this is like it feels like they might have had a point when they were originally doing this, but they just missed being able to convey it, because he had the talk with Isaiah White after Isaiah accuses him of sleeping with his wife, right? And he's like, hey, you gotta, at first it looks like he's mad and he's got a gun and he's gonna shoot him if he says he did sleep with his wife. And then he's like, well, you shoulda. You can't care about anyone's feelings. You can't worry about cheating on your girlfriend. You can't worry about this. You got to be a killer and not care about anyone else, right? So this seems like this could be the point he was making, like where he kills the face, like she's going to attack you, care about no one else.
Yeah,
That's what.
yourself.
But he doesn't even kill her. And then the next morning they wake up, he's like, well, "What do you mean that lady? I don't know. Let's go shooting." And then they shoot that lady with like no, like it's clearly the lady in the mascot suit,
Yeah, yeah.
but Cam doesn't even know that, so him shooting her doesn't like have this emotional weight. Like if they like had made it known to him, where they're like, "Yeah, that's her,
Mm-hmm.
shoot her," and then he still did it.
Yeah,
Oh,
he does it. Yeah, but they don't. They don't.
they don't, and they just keep not doing these things. I just want to know who was in charge of making these decisions because they're
What
so
does he say?
close.
Well, in that shooting scene, what does he say? He's like, if I, okay, he's like, if I make, he's like, I think so. Isaiah White says to Cam Cade, he's like, if you make this shot, then I will give you anything you want, you all the riches, millions of dollars, and if you lose, then what is he like? Then you have to go home, or what did he say? Like,
I think it was I keep my job.
yeah, yeah, I keep my job. I'm QB1 of this team.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, "Oh, I don't like handouts. Like, if he's like, if I make it, then we can fight, or I'll challenge you for the QB1 spot or whatever." And then he makes it. Okay, foreshadowing a little bit to a fight scene later, but it's very anticlimactic.
Very, very much so, and I feel like there's like two different ways you could have used the scene. So one, Cam knows it's the person he's still forced to shoot for the QB1, right? Then you're like, okay, are you selling your soul for this or not?
Yeah,
Or two, like, do we see that like Isaiah tries to pin it on Cam to keep his QB1?
yeah,
Like, is this what he's doing? He's like going to go like, I didn't kill her, you shot her,
yeah,
and we just end up with like the most uninteresting choice every way through, just to make sure that none of these scenes have any emotional relevance later.
yeah. Or even when they're called back slightly, it's they were uninteresting to begin with, and they're uninteresting when they're called back. It's flat.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. The what's the purpose of the mascots with the spaghetti? What's the
It,
purpose of the spaghetti streamer mascots?
I don't know. It's not even like a funny connection to like they could have done something with the saviors, and it could have been something goofy related to like angels or religion or something weird like that. But it's
Mm-hmm.
maybe flying spaghetti monster savior. I don't know. Like I don't know.
Again, they looked interesting. So like, someone who's designing that has an interesting eye. I think when we talk about cinematography and creativity, we could talk a little bit about that because I think there's some good things to say. It's not all bad.
The
But it just
cinematography is awesome. Yeah.
yeah, and they really like what I saw from this is this guy should probably direct music videos
Yeah. Yep.
because he's got a good eye for colors. I think he's got a good eye for composition, but he has just no clue how to make it consistent or cohesive within the and I don't think that this is I think it's not the script because I think the script had a lot of edits from what I was reading.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Because I did read that this originally the script was called Goat, and it had a completely different ending that they just totally scrapped to do the ending that you got in this film.
Okay.
And the ending was that Cam takes over as the QB1 for the Saviors, and Isaiah White is watching him from a bar with his family, and Isaiah White looks happiest he's ever looked.
Hmm.
Right, saying that he like finally is happy by just letting go of this thing that he's been obsessing over.
Yeah. Like releasing it. Okay. Yeah.
But instead we got the version of it that we got, which is Cam, finding out that it's all been just like some weird satanic cabal for the greatest of all time blood that is holy or something, and he has to sign them thing or his family will get killed, and he instead just goes on a crazy killing spree with sword.
Yeah, it just kills everybody. Really, I mean, and he doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, you could make the argument like he doesn't want to. He wants to stand up against this, this evil and this injustice, and like, you know, go against it. But then you don't really get any insight into him judging anything that he's just done, anything he's experienced. It's not like he's trying to be the savior. He just that was not intended savior, but like trying to be a good guy and like ending this like evil satanic cult once and for all by saying no, like I don't want it all. I'd rather draw my line in the sand and be like I'm done. But instead, he just kills everybody for really no purpose.
This part of the movie has two main complaints for me because one, I don't feel like Cam's character was built up this way at all. I almost
Hmm.
feel like it makes so much more sense for Cam to just keep going along because that's what he's been doing.
Yeah,
He's been just going along like, yeah, this is crazy, but also all that shit before was crazy.
yeah,
What was the drawing line right now that you had to fight the dude? Like you've been busting your head and fighting dudes this whole time.
yeah. You were super happy to do all that. I mean, maybe psychologically you didn't have an opportunity to leave, but like all that you're being offered right now is just to sign a contract,
Mm-hmm.
and you
It,
won. So what?
what just yeah, exactly. What just happened? There's the super and two. This has the absolute most tension breaking joke that I've almost ever seen in a movie happen right at the beginning of the scene where there is still a little bit of tension in the scene. Uh, Julia Fox's character, I can't remember her name, Isaiah White's wife.
Hmm.
She reveals that she's been working for the Saviors this whole time. Apparently, and that's supposed to matter in some way. Who knows? Who cares? Uh, and
Human figure that's like married to the QB of a savior is over, and she's like immortal.
it's confusing. It doesn't explain it very well. But she gets up and she goes, "Do I have to do everything for this franchise?" And then immediately falls on her dress, which is made out of swords. I
just
just I couldn't because it was like this isn't the right. If you what are you doing? The tone shifted so fast and became so stupid. I was like, this is a sort of joke you would have in this like not to just evoke Marlon Wayans' past here, but like in a scary movie.
yeah, like a spoof.
Yeah, like, and if this wasn't a spoof, unless it was, and it just was a really unfunny spoof.
That's I can see that angle. Yeah.
They're like, people really thought that was serious, man. That was some stupid shit. Um, crazy. the story does. I can't. I can any explanation I can give you for the story and what it meant is 100% me just trying my best to explain the series of images that I saw.
And that's the thing; they're not even like worth discussing because you're grasping at straws for what it could be, but what it could be isn't very interesting or saying very much.
Oh, football's dangerous.
Yeah.
Oh, the like obsession with things is dangerous. Oh, society is obsessed with violence. Like we know, dude. Like we've known for years. No one's
Also,
out here going like, "Oh my god, are you kidding me? They're hitting each other in the head."
what was the point? Okay, so there's a point in the very end scene where he's like refusing to sign the contract. He's like, no, and they're well, actually, no, he doesn't say no. He just stands there, and they take that as him like not signing the contract. Like he hesitates for 10 seconds. They're like, what are you doing? You can't, because and then they say something that's like, your dad sacrificed all of this for you, and then it shows flashbacks montage of him and his dad playing football, and it's like, wait, so what was his dad a Satanist who like
His dad was into this. His dad knew about the hymn blood.
him blood? But then why was he just some guy? I mean, why was he not successful? Why what?
He died in the military, so that way his son would have to do this because it was all set up. And of course, they hit him in the head with a hammer. That was the easiest twist ever in the entire world to figure out. Uh,
The
um,
him being set up thing.
yeah, he was set up, but it was he was set up from the time that he was a child to then go and join this particular cult because he was a kid.
Hmm.
And Tim Heidecker's character, I don't remember his name either, Agent Man. He was apparently involved the whole entire childhood as well.
Yeah, he like explains that in detail, even though you just, okay, he just like tells you this, like, oh, okay, that's
He, he did
okay,
Scooby Doo it. That's the second Scooby Doo thought now that we've had. He's like,
yeah.
"Oh, I'll tell you that my whole plot was to get you to join it because you were." And like, what about brother and mom? We forgot about them. Family, like, were they involved in this or no or maybe? Who knows?
Oh,
I,
also, there's that scene with the brother, and I just remember this, but like when he's towards the beginning where he's like with the media and this woman's interviewing him, his brother like interrupts the interview just to be like an asshole and be like, hey, well, what about me? Blah blah blah, and then that's just dropped. Like his brother comes back in another scene, but it's not. There's just no like you just don't care about these characters. They like drop little things and then it just completely doesn't elaborate on it at all.
mm-mm, mm-mm. It's like they thought that one line in any of these sentences was enough to become a whole entire character.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, well, you heard him say that, so now you know who he is, right? Because you know exactly who says that.
yeah, those kind of guys. Yeah, somebody like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It just felt lazy. I don't know. Like, it felt like they wrote it out and they're like, yeah, good enough. Let's not think about that ever again. Let's just go do it.
Yeah,
And they did it. And again, like Justin Tipping, the dude could have some really cool imagery. So Justin, go do anything that doesn't have a plot, and
yeah.
don't be involved in the plot. Like, get your hands out of writing. If you're gonna do this again, take whatever they say. Okay. Well, we're gonna talk about cinematography later, so we should probably do that later. That is something I'm gonna really hit on. Um. Okay, so we'll move on from the story. I think you get the general tone of where we're going with this. Let's talk about the acting and the characters for a moment. I think we should probably just talk about Marlon Wayans and Tyreek Weathers first. Let's talk about Marlon Wayans. So Marlon Wayans, I think as far as acting went, I think he did a pretty good job. I think he was tasked with doing something that was pretty stupid. Like, not immediately, like him as a villain, a vaguely veiled villain,
Hmm.
maybe thinly veiled villain. This might be the right word. He did a pretty good job because he seemed both one on it and two, you could tell there was something underneath that was wrong. And he is definitely willing to shout with spittle flying out of his mouth.
And he's able to convey that, like able to convey that villain energy. Not, I mean, some of the acting's over the top, but like just with his looks, like he does a good job, like embodying this character. The character doesn't have much depth at all to it, so maybe that you could say that's easy. But Wayne's is he's a very least he's entertaining, and he
Mm-hmm.
plays the character well.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever character this is, he does it well.
Like, you could feel this, like, well, I mean, maybe I'm projecting a little bit onto the characters, but I could definitely feel this like frustration of having to deal with this guy because of how intense he is, but at the same time understanding that that intensity is what made him who he is.
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty good in that aspect, and Marlon Wayans brought a lot of chaotic energy into this role, and I
Mm-hmm.
think you needed that chaotic energy to make any of this work.
He was well cast. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
this him playing this character, even if the character was better written and had more depth, like him playing this kind of character just made sense. It was, yeah, it was
Hmm.
good.
Hmm. So I'm in on Marlon. This I don't really place any of this at the blame of Marlon Wayans. His acting was fine. Tyreek Weathers, I would argue that I don't actually feel that his acting was poor either. I feel like he got hit with a weird script that didn't like allow him to have any range whatsoever.
Yeah, and that was the whole point, was for him to not have any range, and he did well with that. He did well communicating with his face and his reactions, even if they were never like doing anything for the plot. At least he did well for what he was given. That's for
Hmm.
sure.
Hmm.
I
So that's one area where I actually think that this film like did pretty well is that the actors really didn't just phone it in. They showed up for it. It was just like what they showed up for kind of sucked, but they did show up for it. Um, like I have a hard time with any of the characters saying that they were particularly bad. I did, and I like this guy's stand up, so it's going to hurt a little bit to say it. But Jim Jeffries, I feel like, was probably the weak link. And that again, it's hard to say for sure it was him because the writing for his character might have just been real stupid.
mm-hmm.
Because he was like this, like I have the best job in the world, and I hate it, run. But I have the best job in the world, and also I'm gonna keep drugging you. But go away, don't take my drugs. Oh, I stabbed you without telling you. It was a stupid written character, and it felt a little hammy.
Yeah, well, and at the very end, his character, or maybe it's not the very end, but there's the part. Is it the party scene where his character shows up
Hmm.
again, minus his body?
Yeah,
And that's just supposed to be taken as like, okay, sure, this is cool and creepy, and it's a satanic party or whatever, and this guy's severed head is on the table. Okay,
like
nobody
like
reacts to it. Nobody seems to care. We don't.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
It makes sense because he told Cam to run right before this, right before meeting with the owner, right? So yeah, they got it out for him, but they just do it. It doesn't make any sense when they do it. It's because Cam is drunk or high or whatever on the wine that they served him, and
Hmm.
then literally no one ever mentions this dude ever again, even though he's there for every other part of this film and every other thing. He is the guy who is there, and no one's ever like, "Hey, so the doctor, what happened to the doctor?" Or here's a new doctor, like anything.
Anything, and no one reacts to it. No one. It's just so underwritten.
Hmm.
Um, I,
Uh, go.
what's I was blinking on his name for a second. Well, I was gonna say I wanted to mention Tim Heidecker because he's
Okay.
he's one of my favorite comedians, and honestly, all things considered, he was cast well in this role as this kind of goofy agent guy.
I feel like
And
he could kill that role 100%.
he did again. It was well cast in that sense. Like Tim Heidecker, he plays like characters very well. Like he has a stand up special. I think it's called No More Bullshit. That's one of the funniest stand up sets I've ever seen. It's so off the wall and weird and stupid and an acquired taste, but it's so funny. And he's just playing this like arrogant, weird character the entire time. And he's kind of doing the same thing with the agent. He's just this one note like agent type character, but he still adds something to it, and makes it funny. But having said all that, I think you're supposed to take the end scene with when he slaughters everyone like seriously. It's supposed to be scary. But Tim Heidecker, the scene's already just so funny because it's so stupid. And then Tim Heidecker being there explaining things, he's a funny guy, so it makes it even funnier and unintentionally like completely not scary.
Tim
So
Heidecker wrecks the mood. Well, no, no, no. The lady falling on the sword
yeah,
wrecked the
she
mood.
starts it. Yeah,
And then
yeah,
Tim Heidecker, I think he just fed off of that. Like he was probably like, "Oh, this is all just a big joke, right? Okay,
yeah.
let's go, big joke." And he plays it that way because he's literally running around like it's some sort of slapstick comedy, like, "Oh no!" And then let me tell you the whole entire everything that I did, and please save me.
He was not taking it seriously. I feel like at that point he kind of had to. He'd be like, oh, "This movie is really bad. Like I'm gonna do what I want here."
He's like, they didn't give us any directions. They just said I'm supposed to die, so I'll just go do it. And then they're
Yeah,
like, yeah. He's like, I'm gonna screw around with this, and
That
then they're
movie's
gonna
fun.
tell me to do it the right way. But then he screwed around with it, and they were just like, okay, cool, we got it.
Yeah, we're good.
Because I agree, I liked him. I liked him a lot, and I think like we've seen that this sort of movie can work for him. If you watched Us, like Us can that movie can have some issues of its own. But
Mhm.
one of them wasn't that Tim Heidecker couldn't be taken seriously. He was kind of a like drunk jerk in that movie. He
And
still was goofy, but he was a drunk jerk too.
yeah, yeah, he was funny. He was a funny character, but he was
Mm-hmm.
still playing a role where he was like, you could say it was comic relief, but again, he's still playing a character. He's not just showing up to be like, haha, funny jokes. He's like, you're laughing at his character.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what you were doing here, too.
Yeah, and again, that last scene, his role in that last scene, I agree, terrible. I don't know that I would blame him for that because there's enough in this the rest of this film that I would say it shows pretty clearly that that's probably not his fault. But yeah, that wasn't very good. Uh, Julia Fox, besides the stupid sword scene, and this is a big besides because that sword scene really upset me. I was like, that is the stupidest thing. You wanted me to watch this whole movie, and you're going to give me an act three that starts off with her falling on her own dress, and that's how she dies. Like that's the. Besides that, she was okay. She was fine. She was a little bit like Instagram influencer, kind of confusing on. Uh, do you think that like the? Have you ever heard of like a wife of a major NFL player that sells sex toys? Seems like a reach.
Was it a sex toy that she? I mean, obviously, she told him to put it up your butthole, but like, was it a sex toy or was it like some like new age like healing thing?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
this
You,
was a
you
sex
you might you might be right. I think it's a sex toy disguised as a new age healing thing.
Okay, yeah. And then that scene where she presents it, it's supposed to be funny, but his complete lack of reaction and the fact that it's just kind of just thrown in there makes it super not funny. So I don't know where they were going
But
for there.
they have the good creepy look for her with the bleached eyebrows and like the weird dresses. They like if they could have just played her as a total creep, it would have worked really well.
Yeah,
But instead, they're like, yeah, she's just a funny influencer lady who's kind of vapid and kind of all over the place until she's not.
yeah.
But also, she did the creepiest things in the movie. I think she chopped off the head of the medical doctor, and we just don't see it. So it's like,
Once,
what's the
yeah.
purpose?
I did enjoy the scene where they drive out somewhere in like the San Antonio adjacent desert, and it's like this super rundown motel, and then inside there's this huge parties, cult thing going. That was funny. I thought I was like where are we going with this? And then it was like the reveal was funny, but yeah, and she plays that well. Like she plays that kind of
Mm-hmm.
ditzy, vapid character, and then it drives that specific scene of the plot along well. But then we just drop it.
As we seem to do in this movie. Just here's a good idea. Get rid of that. Get rid of that.
Yeah.
On to the next bad one. Let's go. Other than that, I would say the rest of the characters are just like weird henchmen. The Maurice Green, who plays the dude who continues to wake up Cam every morning,
Mhm.
has he is. It's hard to call it acting. He's just generic bad guy who doesn't have reactions to anything.
Mhm.
Um, I hate those jump scares. Like literally, the only jump scares in this whole entire movie are super unearned, where it's them doing a transition by doing a jump scare instead of actually figuring out how to transition from a scene.
Mhm.
They're like,
Mhm.
we're in an ice bath and we're lying down, and now you gotta scream really loud because you're waking up the next morning, and it's like, oh, that's spooky. It was quiet and now it's loud.
Now it's
It's
loud. Exactly. It was quiet and now it's loud, spooky. That's the main jump scare. Yes.
I hate those so much. I'm not gonna say that it was the actor's fault, but I hated everything he did.
Yeah.
So again, I just poor choices in the story. Um, okay, let's move on to the next part. This part will be probably a little bit more fun as far as actually having something to talk about. So, 5 things you likely did not know. If you're from Double Doinkers and you're hearing this for the first time, that is the additional crew theme song. That's a fun theme song. I'm going to start off first here. Number one, Tyreek Withers. That is Cameron Cade. He played football for Florida State University as a wide receiver, so he's not new to this whole football thing. Might make sense why he's so ripped. Homie was ripped.
Was he played at Florida State? You said.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting.
He clearly did not make it to the majors, but good for him. I'm happy he got out, and then he got to make a movie that was either denigrating football or celebrating it in some facet. I can't really tell you for sure.
Little bit of both in lazy ways.
Yeah.
One thing I got. So this movie is produced by Jordan Peele and his Monkey Paw Productions. Like you mentioned, that him original script Goat. It was like one of the highly sought after script that a lot of producers wanted to attach themselves to. But at the same time, this was in pre-production and just a script. There was another script for another horror movie that just came out called Weapons that Jordan Peele's production company tried desperately to like obtain the rights to, and they lost out on it. And apparently, I've heard rumors that Jordan Peele was upset with his agent or someone in his production team that lost the chance to acquire Weapons. And then this Goat script was the second runner up choice that he ended up unfortunately attaching himself to.
Pretty rough. Pretty rough. Because Weapons was a phenomenal film,
So fun.
and him, as you might be understanding from what we've said so far, not a phenomenal film. Number three, the director Justin Tipping said that his first word was ball, and I mean like first word as a baby, like that was his first word ever. I can't take that for fact because I don't think he'll remember that, but it's probably a little tongue in cheek. But he did state he played college soccer before deciding to go into film. So also Justin Tipping is familiar with sports.
Okay, and
This
that was
fact,
that's not conveyed at all during the movie.
no, this fact actually hurts the film more than anything else, in my opinion.
So the cinematography, we talked a little bit about the cinematography, and it's really good, honestly. It's done by Kira Kelly. She has a few television credits. I think she might have worked on some music videos too, but her most notable, at least from what I gathered, cinematography credit is for the documentary 13th, which is about the 13th Amendment. Really, really great documentary. I believe it was nominated or won an Oscar for Best Documentary. It really is just it goes in depth about the history of racism in this country, and a lot of it is like there's like flashback scenes and like footage, but there's it's just a really well crafted movie, and the cinematography there is great, and it's great here. So clearly she's talented, and if she attaches herself to more horror movies, they could be very good.
For sure, yeah. Because again, as you said, cinematography not the chief issue of this film.
Mm.
Um, the jugs machine scene that came about because the director had never seen a jugs machine before shooting this film. When he was shown one, he thought it looked like a medieval torture device and decided to create the scene.
Hmm.
It's creative, I suppose. I also don't know how wonderful of an idea it is to base a whole scene on a very specific niche that you're making on something because you're unfamiliar with it.
Imagine what a jugs machine would look like in soccer too. I want to see that.
I wonder if they have something like that because
Uh,
like you just have it hit to you so you can kick it back. I guess I don't even know if you call it hit to you. It's like rolled to you.
yeah, I guess probably a little less necessary.
I'm sure they have something like that though. They have batting cages. I mean, I guess that's also different than kicking cages.
I want to see if like hockey, like they throw out a puck just over and over again, or like maybe they throw out sticks and you have to catch the sticks. And
This just brings me to a question: why didn't Justin Tipping just make the movie about soccer? If he
yeah,
played college soccer, like if he's familiar with college soccer, why not just make it soccer? Oh, because Americans wouldn't care. Never mind. I know the answer to that. Uh, they'd be like, yeah, well, no one cares about that. You could be him in soccer, and no one will know your name. Still, it's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. Anyone who likes soccer is in a cult, so yeah, who cares?
If you have to wake up at 4 a.m. to watch it, you're doing something. I say that after having woken up for the 6:30 game on the
Oh,
Pacific. I woke up for that.
wow.
Yeah, I
I mean,
was.
you have a kid, so that's more of an excuse. I had no reason to.
It's just true. Both the kids were still asleep. I should have just slept, but here we are. Okay. So let's talk about creativity and cinematography, so we can actually have some positivity on this episode. So creativity and cinematography is where I think if you wanted to look at something positive in this film, you definitely could. I think that one of the things that this movie did that I don't know that I had seen before that I was a little bit on the fence about, but after thinking about it for a few days, I'm in, is
Hmm.
like the thermal and X-ray visions that it had a couple times. So the X-ray visions when Cam decided he was going to go head to head with a defender, which shouldn't have worked in his favor at all, considering he already has apparently a career-altering injury on his head, but he doesn't in this particular scene because he's being hyped up. And then the thermal imagery when they're in the fight. Although there were negatives to this too, because the thermal imagery went on for just a little bit too long during that
It
fight scene.
it was a cool contrast though, because there's this rough violence where they're beating each other, and then it pulls away right when it gets really violent, and then you just see the thermal like blood brushing out. It's cool. It's creative. I did like the that you have this buildup of violence, and then it just kind of pulls away, but like in an interesting way, not in like a cheating
Mm-hmm.
kind of way.
It also worked for me because I thought the fight scene was really terribly choreographed. Like they didn't look like two dudes fighting. They were like pretending to kick each other very clearly. But then you did the thermal imagery and it just made everything look so much more brutal immediately.
Yeah.
And it was a nice little trick, especially when you do have two actors that are either not being told how to fight or don't really know how to make a fight look realistic.
Hmm.
And it's a fight to the death, and they're like clearly not willing to hit each other. It's a little suspect. So that worked, and I mean, like you can look at any number of the things in this film and be like, well, that was a really like unique, cool image. I think Marlon Wayans with the blood coming out of his eye,
Oh, that was a cool one. Yeah.
haunting. All of the mascots, I don't know that I'm scared of them. Like that's not a scary image to me, but it is a surreal image. I thought the mascots were good. Um,
But the lady that played the mascot, or when she first shows up when he's driving to the out to Isaiah White's mansion, and she's like, there's this whole cult of like mascot type people,
mm-hmm,
and then she's
mm-hmm,
there and she like is staring at him, and then she spits on the car, and it's a very creepy imagery where you can still tell she's like a real person, but it was a creepy scene. Like it conveyed the creepiness well without being too over the top.
mm-hmm. The shot where they're in the sauna and not with her coming out from the bench, but just the shot in the sauna, the backdrop with the stained glass windows and
Oh
the
yeah.
wood, like it's really nice cinematography. Like they chose really good places to film. The whole compound was a very interesting looking place, so I think they have an eye for what looks good.
Hmm.
Like this movie looked good. It had nothing underneath it, but it did look good the whole way through. um I mean, like you can talk about some of the stupid things that they did in this movie, like the spooky footballs. I swear, man, you cannot make a football roll look spooky, and if you try to do it, you should have known that you can't make a football roll look spooky. It just looks stupid. It's like, oh no, the football is rolling down the hallway.
I just realized too that this this character Cam Ward, Cam Cade, this character Cam Cade is supposed to be like maybe like dull and emotionless because he had this traumatic brain injury. But then before he gets hit in the head, he's like sees a spooky football and he just like walks up to it with like there's nothing. He's just like, oh, look at this spinning football. I'm gonna go check this out. Like he doesn't seem like what is that or freaked out. It's just this scary spooky football, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna go look at it. Like what? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, this isn't related to cinematography, but Cam Cade. Here's my justification for Cam Cade as a character. And
mhm.
again, I'm not giving credit to the movie because they didn't make this like at all clear. He seemed like his whole entire personality was just a football interview.
Interview. I like yeah, specific.
Where like every single football interview you've ever seen in your entire life, besides maybe like three of them, are just the same answers with absolutely no deviation. Like, yeah, I'd like to thank God. I'd like to thank my family. I want to say that I would do this all for my family. I do this all for God. I got to be better for my family. I got to be better for my team. Just like the super boring stuff. And this is who the character is because there's nothing underneath it. But again, I'm giving more credit than this movie deserves, so I'm not giving this credit to the movie because they don't. If they had shown his interviews and then had him talk immediately afterwards or
Something
something.
just to give yeah more It's just something to make it more interesting. Like you can be dull and boring and be like just a football meathead, but you need to make that a well-rounded character, and they didn't even do that. I
Mm-mm.
do want to say a quick side note. I realized that the woman interviewing him when he's in his family home shortly before the combine, she plays that sportscaster like role so well. I don't know who she is. I don't know if she's a sportscaster, but her tone of voice, the way she talks, the way her voice sounds like, the way she asks questions like that, she just seemed like such a professional like sportscaster, and it was that sold me. That was cool.
This was actually her interview for professional sports casting. She's like, regardless how this movie does, if someone sees this,
Oh,
they'll
I
hire
want to
me.
get my foot in the door.
um, yeah. So one thing, the ice bath scenes,
Hmm.
they look good. How hard would it be to act while you're in an ice bath?
He was just like sitting there at one point and just kind of chilling. Like, yeah, maybe he was adjusted. You didn't really show him getting in, so maybe he was like adjusted to it. At least the scene I'm thinking of, but it felt like he was just sitting in like some styrofoam peanuts, and
And,
that's
and it could have been that. I guess it could have been like plastic cubes or something. But I,
still like act like it's ice.
right, because I was like, this is either he's either like so locked in and like I have to be this dude or something. Um, I I will say that like this is something that's always an issue for me in every football movie that's not NFL based, and this is probably because I watch the NFL a lot. No matter how hard they try, they can't make a team look like a real team.
Hmm.
And the Saviors were no different. Like I remember the bowl at the end that they had as like the blow up bowl, and I'm like, no NFL team would ever use that.
No.
These mascots are completely unrealistic. They would get so dirty so fast, and it would be disgusting.
Remember what team? So in the very beginning, it was the San Antonio Sabers, and they were playing. I think it was like the Atlanta. Do you remember what the team name was?
Mm.
Yeah, I just remember it was cool. I was like, oh, that's a cool name.
San Antonio Saviors is at least like catchy.
Hmm. And it's there's alliteration. Also, it kind of reminds me of the Saints. So there's like already like kind of that religious adjacent team in the NFL. So it sounds it's a good team name. It's something that sounds realistic, I think. Um, but that scene, the beginning scene, that was one of my favorites because it hooked me with the football imagery, and then it was just kind of like, well, enjoy those 2 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, what did you think about all the scenes at the parties? Because I feel like the party scenes were those sort of scenes, and I guess I'm specifically talking about the one at the rundown motel where he is finding out that he's going to be offered a contract from the owner, and then he gets drugged. I feel like those scenes have some interesting imagery, but they are way too heavily swayed by the fact that there's drugs in his system.
Yeah, wait. So are you talking about the beginning where he gets the call from Isaiah White, or like when he like the very like the scene in
Near the end, the one more near the end.
the way? Okay, so the way they kind of jump back and forth between like reality and fiction, like what's real. Do you think the way that they emphasized it so much, they could have done a better job of conveying what it's like to be drunk or high at a party? Because they didn't do that well at all.
No, no.
Yeah, and that's to answer your question. I just found it like kind of cliche and boring.
Hmm.
It was like, oh, the music's kind of trippy and it's slow, and I just didn't get anything out of that.
No, that's fair. This is kind of my issue with it too. I just wanted to double check. Is like you had some potentially cool imagery, like with the head and everything that was happening during this party, and you do these silly sway effects, and it just makes everything lose its power completely.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, okay, so we're watching some like really 2-bit hip hop video right now, and it is set to hip hop, and that's what we're seeing. And so now the imagery that you're showing me almost feels just completely like meaningless in the context of the movie.
Have you ever seen the movie Climax? If you haven't, I highly recommend. And it kind of spoils you because I've never seen a movie that so perfectly conveys like a like drugged up party scene like that movie does. And that's pretty much the whole plot of the movie. It's a terrifying horror movie. It's really, really good. But they portray that like kind of trippy, like drug party feeling so well for so long, so consistently that comparing him to that, it just makes him like party imagery even worse, in my opinion.
Oh, and this is the movie by Gaspar Noé. So I've heard of this film. I have not watched it. Gaspar Noé did Irreversible
Wow.
also,
Okay.
which is
Yeah.
an awful movie to watch. Amazing movie, but awful to watch.
this one, the climax is super disturbing, and it
That
has that.
tracks.
And I also want to bring it up because it also has that kind of music video quality to it, where there's not characters aren't developed, there's not a plot, but that movie does it well. And I feel like in part this movie just kind of seems inspired by that, just because of the way it looks like a music video. And there's the yeah. Anyway, don't want to spoil that movie, but yeah.
I feel like there's a way that you could do this, where you can make these like non-character based movies because the characters don't have development if there's a larger point you're making or there's something that you're subverting. I almost think about there's this film called Mads, right? And it's a zombie movie, so sounds like it should be stupid, but Mads ends up being really good because it kind of subverts the idea of zombie movies. It's like, what is the lead up to becoming a zombie? And it's like, instead of being like this terrible sickness, it's like almost euphoric for the people.
Oh, huh.
And it's interesting for that. And then the characters don't particularly matter. It's the build up to what they become that matters, right? But this movie was all based on these two characters, only two characters, and everything was based on them, and it still had the ability to have absolutely zero depth to them.
Mm-hmm. So somehow, like they had all the opportunity to focus on them and make it.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to care about the characters. You just have to get more insight into their psyche for it to be scary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Atlanta Masoners, by the way, I did find that out.
Oh, Atlanta Masoners?
Mm-hmm.
Like the
Mm-hmm.
Masons? Like what?
I think so. So there's probably something about like hidden societies in
Okay.
like
Okay. I like that.
giving something there. The going back to the creativity and the cinematography though. So this is again, I'm having a hard time saying that it's specifically good. However, it was the best part of the movie for me
Mm-hmm.
easily was that some of these shots did look really cool. I wish they could have done more with the compound because the compound looked so cool on the backdrop of everything else. I don't know if it was like bark that they had out front, bark chips or whatever, or if it was rocks, but it just looked so out of place and so alien.
They did the desert, like it's hard to get good desert cinematography in a movie, and I think this movie did a pretty good job of making the desert seem interesting. Maybe not
Mm-hmm.
scary, but like interesting.
Excuse me. I am trying to think of any other specific things I have to say with cinematography, and I'm not. I'm coming up a little bit blank right here. Do you have anything?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, I like the close-ups of sweat on the forehead at times, but they got kind of boring after a while.
Yeah, the first person camera when Cam was dodging tackles was cool for a second. I
Hmm.
thought that gave a little bit more realistic feel of what it might be like to be a quarterback, where you're just like, okay, I have absolutely zero time. I am just reacting.
Yeah,
And that gave like maybe a little bit more of a like it's like, okay, wow, I'm watching these dudes just react all the time. That's
and
scary.
and specific for the quarterback, who like their whole position is to react as quickly as
Hmm.
possible. It's not just be
Hmm.
athletic, but you have to react. So it did convey that well, I think. Yeah.
It was just like the Jake Browning simulator, like every time he takes a snap, someone's directly in front of his face, so he has to dodge him. Um, but other than that, yeah, good, not great. Let's move on to editing and pacing, which I feel like this is a pretty simple one for me. So the editing and pacing of this film, the pacing is it feels like a longer movie than it is. Uh,
You
excuse
you
me.
uh, you could have taken more and added more. Like scenes could have been dramatically altered, but as long as it was still the same plot, it would have felt long.
Yeah, yeah. I think I was looking at my rubric because I was really trying to be like precise about this one because the way I felt about it was pretty bad.
Hmm.
And I think on the editing and pacing, I have one that says this movie should have been a short movie.
Or a music video, yeah, something
Yeah.
short.
And I still think that was probably right. Like you could have made this movie as a short music video, especially with the level of, well, lack of message underneath that was competently displayed.
Yeah,
Um, and one thing that I've talked about a lot in the editing category is that if I don't really understand how much time has passed, even though you're showing me how much time has passed, that's a pretty bad sign for your editing. We
yeah.
see each day when they start, but like from the attack to him going to the camp to the combine, I I have no frame of reference. The combine could have happened like 3 years before he got this call.
Yeah.
And I don't think it did, but it didn't ever like kind of try to explain to me like the combine happened yesterday. You're out of the draft now because you didn't do it. So here, let's go.
It was literally just a couple of clips of like, oh, you saw a notification on his phone is like, is Cam Cade worth the trouble, or like, is he a risk? And there's
Mm-hmm.
no insight into whether or not is he actually going to fall out of a draft? Like, there's just completely lost. So the stakes are not communicated at all, which makes the whole lead up to going to his combine far less exciting.
Again, I just don't see how you go from first overall pick to just completely out of the draft because you got hit in the head with the hammer
Yeah,
like right before the combine, unless it was well before the combine. Like if you got hit in the head with a hammer, your skull got to the point where you needed, staples.
yeah.
I think teams would probably understand that. They'd probably be like, yeah, that makes sense that he can't compete, but okay, let's talk about maybe he's a third round pick now, or we just meet with the dude and make him do a private workout.
Or see if he can be like a medical redshirt and come back to college in every year. I guess, or just like something like declare late. It's not common, but like there's certain circumstances. But like you said, like exactly, like they could have him fall to a later round, or there would be some. Yeah, it's just bad. It's so bad.
Again, the editing and the pacing of this film don't make any sense. Like the pacing of this movie is just, it kind of all stays at the same pace throughout. It's all this like we're tentatively moving fast, but we don't really know what we're moving towards
Yeah,
until the third act where it throws everything out the window and it's like, okay, now everything's here immediately, and now we got to just go crazy and kill everyone because you have to have a third act that's intense.
yeah. At least it's yeah. If there was an alternate reality of this movie where some creepy mascot in a mask walks up and like has uh, gives him a mask, and the mask has like a bong attached, and he takes a bong rip, and then it comes out that he has a Laramie Tensel moment and falls in a draft because he was smoking out of his cult bong. I don't know, just like instead this Viking, he just comes up and just like smacks him in the head. It's never explained. That was bothered me so much.
Homie just popped out of nowhere. Like, are they magic or are they not magic?
We never find out.
And you're exactly right. It doesn't even have to be the hammer to the head, because the only reason that I feel like they did that is so that way they could show like traumatic brain injury later. Like if he has another one, it could be really detrimental to his career. But then we see him going and getting traumatic brain injuries over and over and over again, and it even X-ray zooms in on him, and nothing happens ever.
And he doesn't get the traumatic brain injury from football. He doesn't. There's
Right, way to obfuscate your only point you were really making at the beginning of this. It's so easy. I said the same thing to my partner, right? I was like, okay, you have it right in front of you. You have football. You're making a point about a violent sport. Why not just have him playing in the game and he gets hit and he gets a bad concussion?
yeah,
There you
simple.
go. Easy peasy. And now you made the point about football. But instead, it's got to be this dude so you can tie it to a secret society so you can have the most obvious twist in the world later.
And even with a guy like his traumatic injury that's conveyed in the beginning of the movie is that he like completely like breaks his leg or like dislocates his knee and destroys his leg, and that's an effect of the violence of football. But then that's just negated too because he like takes these like cult like serums and he's able to come back and like it's celebrated and there's no like discourse about like that. It's just something that happened to happen. It didn't even have to happen. It really didn't have to happen.
Well, and like I feel like that was the point that they were trying to make. Like, okay, this is how we got this guy to take the him blood, right?
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
like, okay, so he broke his leg and then he wanted back so bad that he was willing to take on and sign on this contract with us. But I don't think that we ever get clarification that that's actually the order of events. He
No,
could
we
have
don't.
had the him blood before that, and then he
And,
just broke his leg.
well, and also because it sounded like he'd been taking it like his whole career, and this point when it was on a game winning drive for him to win the Super Bowl, so he's
Hmm.
already was successful before this injury. God, I just if there is a secret society out there that is run by Jerry Jones and all the NFL executives, I swear to God, I hope and pray that Tyreek Hill does not get access to this this blood to fix his leg and stay around the league for 10 more years. Jesus.
Oh man, Tyreek Hill's the exact sort of guy who would get it.
Yes.
I mean, if anyone has access to this right now, it's 100% the Packers.
Oh,
So
Aaron,
because
yeah, Aaron. Yeah, yeah,
they just keep giving it to their quarterbacks, and they're like, "You'll be the greatest," but we still can't win the championship. I mean, they have, but
it was a
it's
while
neither here
ago.
nor there. Yeah. So anyway, the editing and pacing of this film is atrocious, just bad. And a big portion of this can be attributed probably to other issues. I don't know what the people who were post were working on and what they were given to work with. But I said it earlier, and this is still one of my biggest issues with this film. I think this is attributable to editing a little bit as well. I had no idea what was really happening and what wasn't. I just had to go with what I saw on the screen and be like, okay, I guess it happened. Like he's in the desert and he gets hit by a hammer, but then in the next scene, he's still just on the ground in the desert. What? What is it?
Yeah,
Did he get
it's
hit
not
by the hammer?
in a cool way where it's like, oh, we don't know what's actually happening. Like it's like kind of like surreal. Like, oh, what's real, what's fake? Because it's all like I don't know if anything's real. I don't know if anything's fake. There's no nuance at all. It's just like scenes that are thrown together and you have to guess.
Right, exactly. It's like if everything was in this weird dreamlike state that was like spooky happening and everything else was normal, that might have worked. But
Mhm.
instead, everything is in the exact same state.
Exactly. The pacing is exact same. The whole movie, like each scene is like it's a unique style, but you need that contrast in order to be interesting. And there's just the
Hmm.
whole just starts and it doesn't stop.
Hmm. Um, one thing I forgot to mention when we were talking about cinematography and creativity, I'm going to go back just real quick because I do want to mention it. Every scene where someone was puking in this movie looks so incredibly fake. Like you could see the hose that was like spraying out the puke. I loved that because it was so stupid.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. It was
Like
like
when he's in the desert, he like bends down to puke. It's like the puke starts at the end of his mouth. You can see that there's nothing else, and it just goes spray out in a straight line. Like they didn't even take the time to like figure out how to filter it or anything.
no to make it look interesting. It's just like, oh, this is fake.
It's just a lazy movie, honestly. Like so many parts of this just feel like they were lazy. Like they were thought they had such a slam dunk they didn't need to try. Let's let's talk about the music because this had a pretty, I want to say, in depth original soundtrack to it.
Hmm.
Like they got people to make songs for them. And music was one of those things where I thought that a lot of the songs were pretty interesting, but I don't feel like the movie helped them.
They weren't memorable enough because they were attached to this movie. I think they didn't
That,
really drive
that's
the plot. Yeah,
that's exactly it. I don't think the songs were at fault here. I actually thought some of the songs were interesting, like that "Tiptoe" song by Tierra Whack. When it came on, I was like, "Oh, this is a pretty cool song." But the movie heard it.
yeah.
Like, just turn off the movie for a second. Let me just listen to the song, and I'm having a better time right now.
Probably my favorite one of my favorite scenes was well, I guess we'll get into our favorite scenes in a sec here, but and I'll mention it then. But there's a needle drop of there's a song that's featured that fits really well, and I think it's in part because it's towards the beginning and you don't really know that this movie's going to be extremely repetitive, and it's like you're actually getting a new
Hmm.
scene, a new sequence, and it's like, oh, this could be interesting, and the music there is interesting, but then it's all kind of lost.
Yeah. I know that this is missing some because I'm looking up the soundtrack right now, and Strawberry Letter 23 was definitely in there by the Brothers Johnson, and it's not showing that. So,
Hmm.
um, but there were songs made specifically for this movie, like "Him" by Denzel Curry, which was a little cheesy, where he was just spelling out
Uh,
Him. It's too much. It's too much, guys. Come on, you can't just use the name of the movie and say it over and over again. That's not right.
and Denzel Curry's energy in that song does not match this just kind of flat, stylized, confusing narrative. Like it just doesn't match.
No, no.
No.
Uh, so I think that the soundtrack overall, I'm gonna give it its benefit of the doubt here, and say I think the soundtrack likely better than it's conveyed here.
Hmm.
Which, when I'm thinking about it, as I say that, and I'm looking at the movie, I would say that that probably means that they still chose the wrong soundtrack for this film.
Yeah, I don't know what else they would have chosen.
No, that's fair. That's fair. That is fair. Because would anything have worked? You
Like
need an Angelo Badalamenti from fucking David Lynch to come in here and just like lay of some of that shit over it. And that sounds awful, but that's the like the movie needed something in some direction. Surreal could have been a direction.
the music is so grounded that it like, and this movie is very not grounded and in a very boring way.
Yeah,
Isn't
100%. The music, like, you could pitch me this music in a movie that was just based on football, and it would be perfect,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
wonderful. But because this movie is so out there without me being able to figure it out, that having this soundtrack, you're right, you're exactly right, you called it, it's too grounded. It's actually making it confusing a little bit because I'm like, well, this just guy just living his football life right now, or is he in this weird like cult training thing where he's a little scared? It doesn't work on either side.
No.
I'm still like, again, I'll give the songs the benefit of the doubt because I don't think the songs were necessarily like the issue. It was just this tone of the film that couldn't figure it out.
100%.
Okay. So we've talked about all that stuff. Let's go ahead and talk about our three favorite scenes of the film. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, it was a little hard to come up with three favorite scenes. If that tells you what I feel about this movie, it really was that third scene. I was like, oh, what other scenes were in this movie that were good? Crap. I'll go ahead and I'll just start off here. I'm just gonna run through my scenes and I'll let you go through your scenes. My favorite scene, and it was the only one that felt really creepy to me at any point in this movie, was when Cam was with his agent driving up to the compound and they went through the cult
Mm-hmm.
of obsessed Isaiah White fans. I had hope at that time in the film,
Mm-hmm.
and this gave me hope that it was going to go in a direction that was interesting because all those guys looked dirty, nasty, gross. They were all wearing jerseys. They all had banners. They all had, whatever, and they definitely look like obsessed fans that are have been out there for almost like years, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is an interesting direction to go for a football movie. Now, mind you, they didn't go that direction at all, but I did enjoy the scene. um, Number two, the party scene at the beginning with the brothers and friends. And again, because this is a direction that could have gone with the movie where it was more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I had hope at this time in the movie. What I recognized as I was putting this together, I was like, oh, I just liked it when I had hope, and I thought this could be good. Um,
Yeah.
but it also has one of my favorite lines in the whole entire film, and it was not the brother, but the brother's friend when the brother gets hurt. I guess I don't really know. It didn't really make a lot of sense. But then the brother's friend goes, "I'm trying to pull bitches, and you're pulling hamstrings." And I was just like, "Oh shit, that's such a good line." Okay, all right.
It tied that whole kind of party like goofy scene together too.
Yeah, and like the one that ends up in the bathroom with Cam just being like totally emotionally unavailable, like whatever. But again, I like that scene just because it felt grounded, and that could have been like if you had just grounded this movie in realism around friends and like family. I think there would have been something there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then my third favorite is just completely the opposite direction. It's when I had given up all hope and everything was gone, and then he chopped the head off of. I think this was the owner that he chopped the head off of. It could have been someone else, but he chops the head off right next to the uprights on the field where he should be signing the contract, and the blood is just spraying up, and it's going up the uprights. And that was just the one time that they used gore competently, and it was a really good little image.
Mm-hmm.
The scene wasn't good, but the image was really good, and I thought that they did a really good job with the special effects in that particular scene. So
Yeah,
the blood flying up the uprights.
yeah.
That's what I got.
Well, you talk about when you had hope in the movie. So a lot of my scenes are in the beginning too. I think that it was still kind of weird and confusing, especially when I think back on the whole movie. It kind of fits that weird, confusing narrative plot. But the very beginning was interesting. I like how they weren't it wasn't just kind of the cliche like, oh, the family's sitting around like watching football and the kids, watching his favorite player. It was conveyed in a way that was like kind of intense and engaging. Like they show clips of the Super Bowl and then the injury and then his dad. It was like the whole movie is like this. It got so exhausting after a while, but that beginning scene does hook you. At least I was
Hmm.
interested. I wanted to know more about these players, these teams. Like I wanted to know about Isaiah White's character. Like, did he like recover from his injury? Does this kid grow up to be like him? Like the dynamic setup there was good.
Hmm.
I also liked the first training sequence. I think just before the jugs machine, and the song "Lemonade" by Gucci Mane is playing. I love that song, and it actually like it was a grounded scene, and that song fit the vibe of what they were going for because they, again, I don't know what Isaiah White's like training method is. We don't know much about his character, so this is the very first scene where he's going out there to train, and it's unexpected. You don't know what's going to happen, and it's engaging and like catchy song. It's like I don't know. It was fun to watch like some actual football montage pieces. Sure,
Hmm.
it was all right. I wouldn't have stood out to me, but compared to the rest of it, it actually stand out. And then I was the sauna scene. Some of the direction in that sauna scene when the girl first pops out from underneath the sauna bench, there was some tension there, even though it made no sense at all,
Hmm.
really at all. Why she was there, nothing about it made sense, but there was tension there.
I,
Um,
I'll ask this real quick.
yeah,
Was she supernatural? Because she picked up that sauna rock like it wasn't 200 degrees.
that's a good observation. Yeah, yeah. Also, like I don't really know exactly how saunas work. I've been in them before, but I think I was in one that was like 90 degrees. It was like it was going up to like 200 in like
Yeah, I don't.
that doesn't make any sense. What?
No, I don't buy it. I,
Yeah,
I do agree with you. The scene was actually really shot well. My only issue was it had those like really goofy, like almost early 2000s football masks for the other guys, and they just pull me out because I've seen people wear those, and they're not spooky people. They're the opposite of spooky people.
and then any scene with Tim Heidecker was just because I like him.
I get it. I get it. I like it's hard because I like Jim Jeffries. You know what I mean? Like he's a comic who says some gnarly shit and like, but he says it with a funny Australian accent. I assume Australian. I That's an assumption I'm making here.
Yeah, I think he is.
Um, but gosh, man, I don't even know that it's anyone who acted in this movie's fault. I'm putting the fault pretty directly on whoever rewrote the script.
Hmm.
Like, just play the script out if you can't figure out what to do with it. Just
And
play it out.
I hate to say, like I do blame the production. Like the production, there's the style is cool, it's unique, but like the movie just doesn't seem well produced because it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. It doesn't have a direction. It doesn't have like a hook to it at all, and it feels just kind of sloppily put together.
And here's the thing for me is like people have been kind of like exonerating Jordan Peele from this. They've been like, well, it's not really his movie. He's just producing it. It's just Monkey Paw Productions. And it's like, well, here's the thing, Jordan. Like if you'd watch this movie, you got to be careful about how much ad runs you're doing for it. Like you are out there giving interviews about how much of a visionary direction this is,
Hmm.
and that matters to people.
Yeah,
So maybe like pull back a little bit on that and just like let the ads and the trailers run and just sit down,
yeah,
Or maybe he liked the movie. Marlon Wayans did have some pretty good quotes about this later, where he's like, "Yeah, critics hate the movies, but critics have hated mostly everything I've done, and now people like it." So,
yeah. That's
it's
yeah. I don't think this is going to have the same cult following as a like scary movie does, but I mean he does have a point. Like
mhm.
I mean I think critics like trashed all his spook movies like White Chicks, and now people like celebrate that and watch that all the time. So I mean he
it,
does have a point there, but it's,
it's hard because like I want to celebrate that. And I want to be like because I don't necessarily hate bad movies if they've got like a good point or like some really great things underneath. But this movie just again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. It just felt super lazy. Like it's almost just like a shame that it got made in the way that it did.
here that's my biggest gripe about the movie is that within this idea, this very unique idea, you could have made a movie where it's about like a quarterback. Like you could go one of two directions. You could do like a Cam Newton kind of more over the top kind of goofy guy, or you could do like a Kirk Cousins, like God fearing family guy, whatever. Either way, you want to convey this character as a bit of a straight man to start, at least to contrast what comes forward. So like imagine this: there's this young kid, he gets taken under the wing of like some like Tom Brady, Kirk Cousins type figure. He goes to their big mansion, and it's like at first it seems normal, maybe, and this like it's he has like a like a nuclear family, and he just seems like this nice guy, and then slowly over time he gets a little bit crazier and crazier, and there's a buildup, and then that contrast is what makes it unsettling, which makes it scary. But instead, like this character had no development, and I would argue. I mean, the main character didn't have any development, and I would argue though that this Marlon Wayans character deserved even more development because the movie being scary hinges on him and how his
Hmm.
character progresses. So you could have made this into like a really like imagine if Kirk Cousins is secretly like an evil like he has a secret cult and he like has this whole facade of like this Christian God fearing guy, and then you learn he's actually evil or a Satanist or whatever. That's scary. That's interesting. This movie did not have that, and there's potential for this to be scary and this idea to work really well. And it you know,
Yeah, I have a hard because I like your idea, and I think the part that makes me the most worried about this is that I want there to be good horror movies that are taking weird directions like this. Like you take football and horror and you mash them together, right? Because there's potential there. Like it is a violent sport where really violent things happen that are terrible for people. But then you see this movie and you're like, wow, you just wasted all that potential on telling me absolutely nothing and
nothing.
giving no character development for anyone. Like all these football players are real people. You have a million opportunities to choose someone to base it off of that would be interesting, and you just chose NPC from Madden.
Exactly, Madden. They're Madden characters. But I do want to ask if you caught this or if it's even explained, but his character is a walk on in some college. Did it give any insight into like where in the country he was from? Like, it also kind of made me think about the Cam Ward Cam K connection. Probably unintentional, but I mean, Cam Ward was also a walk on that like built himself up over a few years. So I thought that was kind of funny, but I didn't get any insight into like what his college development was at
I
all.
didn't catch any of that. No, no. Just that he has a coach that he talks to that's a very generic coach.
Yeah.
Um, who was probably part of the cult because he must have been the guy who held the hammer. I say that
Of
like
course.
it's a revelation, but it didn't matter either.
No.
Unfortunately. Um, so uh, do you want to start with your review?
I mean, I think that I'm talking about this in terms of like my score. I think my review of this movie, I kind of was just. I think I want to start off like basically by saying like the disappointment is the number one like summary of this movie for me, where there's the lack of potential and the fact that the movie is lazy and it squanders that potential, and just the fact that it's so consistent but in a frustrating way because the lazy style is always there, but it's not. It's just consistently lazy, and there's not any breaks into like a different kind of movie or like where you're questioning the audience or you're questioning like what the movie's about because it's so confusing to begin with that you don't even have the desire to question more about it. I thought about it a little bit, and I think despite the fact that the cinematography is very good, there's some funny scenes, there's some interesting scenes, there's a lot of cool imagery, the acting is pretty decent. I think that this all just collapses under how lazy and boring this movie is, and I think I don't usually give out very low grades to movies. I think I got to give us a 3 out of 10. I was so bored.
I don't believe you. I did a rubric review just because I don't want to be overly like because I think when I got out of the film I said 3 out of 10 immediately too because I was like wow they squandered every opportunity they had. They just let it go away by not pushing the envelope in any direction.
Hmm.
But here's where my rubric ended up. So, uh, I gave the story a 2 out of 10, and that is that there is a story, and it's not just a giant plot hole that doesn't make any sense. And even if the story is terrible, it exists. So I'm
Hmm.
giving you a 2. And the story is terrible. No point was made in this movie. None. Not one discernible. You could like I said, you can do an Olympic level stretch and reach and try to grab a point and you can make one up in your head. But just watching the film, you're not going to get anything out of this. Acting, I'm giving it a 2 because I think you really have two characters in this film with Tyreek Withers and Marlon Wayans characters that are clearly acting at a different level than everyone else and almost in a different movie than everyone else. Now, that's not to say everyone else is terrible, but the dichotomy between the two and what it means to the film is a gulf.
Yeah.
And you can't do that and have a steady movie, even.
Yeah.
Cinematography and creativity is a 3. This is one of the better parts of the movie, but it can't elevate the film. And again, during times like the party scene where really important things were happening, the cinematography almost undercuts the actual importance of what's happening.
Hmm.
The medical doctor getting his head cut off should have been a pivotal part of the movie, and instead it just felt like this throw-in scene because you're in the middle of this weird music video freak out.
Yeah.
So you can't have it both ways. You can't be both cool and also make that point in that scene, but you decided to try, and it all fell flat. Editing, pacing, again, a 2. And there's only one reason I gave it a 2. It's because on my rubric, number 1 is that it should have been a 15-minute movie, and I think that's a little harsh. It's maybe right. When I'm talking about this out loud, it might be right. But I'm giving it a 2, just saying that it barely makes any sense. There's giant plot holes everywhere, and you really have to reach to try to pull it together. And the music, I'm giving it a 3 because I think the music itself is good. It doesn't necessarily fit the tone, but I think the music itself is good, and they got artists to make music for the movie,
Mm.
um, which I guess isn't always a good thing. I mean, how many times like Spider-Man got artists to make music for the movie, and they ended up with the hit "Heroes" by Nickelback, and that's a song that we've been saddled with in America for 20 plus years, and it wasn't even in the movie; it was just only in the credits. Anyway. That leads me to a 4.5 out of 10. So it's still not good, and that's me trying to be ultra fair. So a 3 and a 4.5 out of 10. We're looking at like a solid 4 if you add our scores and divide. That's
It's
it's just
bad.
it's not a good movie, guys. I'm going to tell you the truth. Like, if you have listened to this and you haven't watched the movie, good for you. You've spent about the same amount of time listening to two guys just talk about a movie, and you probably got out as much as you would have having actually watched the thing.
Yeah. It's about the same
Hopefully
runtime.
more.
And it's like a compliment and a criticism of the movie is that the fact that it's about 90 minutes and it feels like much longer, but I'm glad that it's only 90 minutes. At the very
Hmm.
least, you're going to have that little plot and character development. Don't go longer than 9. Don't go longer than 20 minutes, but like don't go longer than 90 minutes. Like
That
geez.
that is true. There's like not that level of arrogance where people want to, like watch this movie for too long. And I'm looking at you movies like Presence. Get
Mhm.
out of here with your long like you're so boring. But this movie also should fall into that same category of just like even though it's got really cool imagery, there's just so little underneath it that you I can't see. I can't even call it entertaining. It wasn't even entertaining. It was frustrating how much I wanted it to be over all the time.
Yeah, it was just very very boring. Like from the get go, like within 5 minutes after.
Um yeah, okay, so first, thanks Willie for joining us for this episode. Wonderful, always wonderful to have you on. Um excuse me. The next movie we're doing, and I'm sure this is going to lift our review scores much higher, is Jason X from 2002. Colloquially, I said that wrong. You'll figure it out, listeners. Known as Jason in Space. It recently got a 4K box set made, and I'm really curious on watching it again. And I'm sorry, I'm still coughing. I was sick like 2 weeks ago, and it just hangs out. You know how it is. So join us for that. That'll be out in 2 weeks. Also, definitely join us for Double Doinkers if you have any interest in fantasy football. We're live on YouTube every Wednesday night. Podcast release on Thursday mornings. Um, we give our plays of the week, our sits of the week, our if you're thinking about it, throw these guys in your lineup, and then we also just talk about the games. Um, I don't want to, brag too much, but we've been doing pretty good on our picks lately, I'd say.
I'm excited. I'm excited. I've already got some good nuclear boys to talk about.
Heck yeah. So do check that out if you're at all interested in fantasy football. Other than that, Willie, thanks again. This isn't to you. This is my end quote, just so everyone knows. Fuck your dumbass eyebrows.